Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to this week's review of the latest Doctor Who episode. It's episode 8. Episode 8. I can't remember the bloody title, and it doesn't bloody matter. Right, this week, for once, I've got notes because this episode is huge, and I wanted to get it right. I wanted to give my opinions on many things as possible, but the writing's scruffy. I'm probably going to get in a bit of a mess and you'll get bored and you'll stop watching, but never mind. But I want to talk about my two favourite moments in reverse order. The first one is when the Sudman's got them all cornered, right? And Mary Shelley bravely stands there and she goes, "You used to be a person. What's your name? You spared my child." She believes that this guy's still got some humanity and compassion. He goes, "You know why I spared your child? Because it had nothing. It was useless," or something along those lines. And I thought Maxine Alderton, who did a great job with this episode, not in terms of just writing it, but the research she had to do, that was a great moment because you actually thought that maybe Maxine was, writing in here that, Mary does find some humanity within this, I suppose, this Cyberman, or if you want to call him a Frankenstein, because that's what a Cyberman is, right? And then, as you think, maybe, because the actor does a great job and the director, Emma, gets a great job in getting the actor to look like he may be, falling out here. He may have some good in him. And then he comes around and says, "Listen, the only reason I didn't kill your child is because the child was useless." Wow. So cold. But the moment of this episode is the moment when our Doctor gets her Capaldi speech. Every Doctor in the history of Doctor Who has had that speech. We always go back. Hartnell's got that one. "Someday I'll come back." But wow, she got this speech. And I really tried to write it down word for word, but it was going too fast and I couldn't do it. And I didn't have the time to keep on going back to it. But it's an amazing speech. So basically, the Doctor has this impossible choice. Does she let Percy Shelley die? And we'll go through about the Siberium and all of that. But does she let Percy Shelley die? Or does she allow this cyber war to happen and for billions of people in the universe to die? And Ryan says, Percy's just one person. If you let him live, millions of people will die. And then she starts. Paul Ryan, he got it in the neck from the Doctor in Fugitive of the Jadoon as well in the end scene in the TARDIS. And he's getting it again because he stands up and he says, he says something quite logical. We either let this guy die or we allow millions of people to die. But then the Doctor says it. Words matter. If this one person dies, all his words, every poem he ever writes won't be there. It will change the universe. It will change the world. It will change you. You won't exist. None of you will exist. I'm sacrificing you too. Is that all right with you guys? Basically talking to the fam. They don't want to die either, do they? They go quiet. And this is my position in this group, in this team, she goes. Basically, I'm on my own, on the top. And then she says a brilliant thing, which was in the promos and stuff. Sometimes even I can't win. So this is the darkest we've seen Whittaker's Doctor. And she was absolutely amazing. And this is what I've been saying to you guys from the start of the season with Spyfall. As soon as she discovered that the Master had destroyed a version of Gallifrey. That's the kind of narrative I'm going with, by the way. She's feeling alone. Not only does she discover that Gallifrey's been destroyed again, but she discovers that everything she knows about her own life is wrong as she discovers another version of herself in Fugitive of the Jadoon. And no one can empathise with her. The Master's gone. She can't talk to him. He vanished after Spyfall Part 2. She's got no one who understands. She's travelling with these wonderful free humans, but they can never understand her point of view. So she's feeling so alone. And finally, when Ryan goes, "Let him die, then at least we save everyone else," And she goes absolutely insane because the doctor could never agree with that. Anyway, not that the doctor would never do that in the history of this show. We know that's not true, of course. But this doctor is a bit different, isn't she? But finally, the moment we've been waiting for, some fleshing out for this doctor, and it was wonderful. I never understood, even last season when I was being quite negative about Doctor Who and what Chris Chibnall was doing, and I didn't really understand what his idea was with Jodie's doctor. I never understood people saying this woman can't act. She's got a great CV. You can go and watch her in Black Mirror. You can go and watch her in Broadchurch. She's wonderful. She's a really good actor. So the kind of point of her not being able to act is ridiculous, and that's agenda-driven people who are still kind of triggered because they cast a woman as the doctor, and I won't hear of it. She's always been a good actor. She's a really good actor. She's been around the circuit. She's brilliant. And that moment when she says that to Ryan, and she's unleashing because she's feeling alone. Everything she knew was a lie from the beginning of this season. And that's amazing. And you can see the loneliness. One thing I didn't get at the end when Byron was reading out and he was saying she is the universe or whatever he was saying, didn't really get that. So let's refer to my notes now. And look, it's an amazingly written episode from Max, and she did a really great job with this. She really did. So we start off at Lake Geneva, where Lord Byron's estate is. Now, listening to what Max said about this, she was saying how he kind of hid at this estate because he was accused of having an affair, of, I think, sleeping with his half-sister or whatever, right? This guy was, I suppose, I don't want to use the word toxic masculinity because it's a trigger, but maybe Maxine used him for that reason. But you know what, Max? I forgive you because you wrote great Doctor Who. Something else I want to say about Maxine Aldington as well, really, is not only does she get her history, but within this episode and the stuff she wrote, it seems like she actually understands Doctor Who. And I'm not talking about the reference to Bill when she says, I will not allow anyone else to become that. Again, that's a reference to Bill. That devastated Capaldi's Doctor, didn't it? It's what was going through the Doctor's soul this week. This is a person who gets Doctor Who. Dare I say that Maxine Alderton may actually be a Doctor Who fan, and I don't think there's many of them on the current Doctor Who production team, so we should put her in a freezer and preserve her. She was brilliant. Her writing was absolutely fantastic. She was flawless this week. The humour was great, the serious stuff, the Doctor Who connectivity from the past was great, and how she wrote this lone Cyberman was absolutely fantastic. Now, something else I want to talk about. I want to talk about Graham, and I want to talk about the ghosts he saw. Now, that was nothing to do with the Siberian. Is that how you say it? Anyway, we'll discuss that more in a minute. Those ghosts just seemed to appear. They were random. And originally the doctor said there's no such thing as ghosts. But at the end she goes, maybe there is. So the doctor was being a bit vague. And the doctor can always be a bit vague and not just Whittaker's version. So this is my theory, right? Graham had a nightmare last week by what happened in last week's episode, right? And he was told by Nightmare Grace that he had like 2 days to live or something. This week, right, he sees two ghosts nobody else has seen delivering him food, giving him food. Could this be Graham's last supper before he dies, right? That's my theory, right? And I do have another theory about Yaz. Yaz has been dead, in my mind, this is my theory, since Spyfall. She's been dead since Spyfall. And someone is impersonating her, taking her, using her as a vessel or something. That's my theory. I don't think any of these companions get out of this season alive, but I could be wrong. Chibnall's made it clear that they are separated and they're trying to get back to each other, and maybe they'll stay at least separated until the New Year's Day special, and I think it is a New Year's Day special we're getting, and I'm sure that will be confirmed sooner rather than later, with season 13 to air on the BBC a year from New Year's Day 2021. Just my theory, just my thoughts. So anyway, what we've got. So we've got Mary Shelley, who I'm assuming is married at this time to Percy Shelley, who's nowhere to be seen in the first half of this episode, and she has a child. And they have a nanny for this child. Unfortunately, eventually the Cyberman kills his poor nanny, and the way they find her in the cot, was it, or something, was pretty brutal. This was classic Doctor Who in a lot of ways. You know, people died. The servant, and the gag between Graham and the servant, when the servant kept on scaring Graham, was hilarious. So there was some really good humour in this episode as well. And Doctor Who should always have a balance of humour, drama and scares. And a bit of, we did get a lot of drama from the Doctor this week as well. Lord Byron was absolutely fantastic. The actor played him very of that age and that time, the way he spoke. But this was a kind of a Casanova, a seductor. Now, Mary Shelley's stepsister in it, is it? Right? She's got a crush. She's obsessed with Lord Byron. He even catches her trying to break into his room to see if he writes about her and things like that. Now, this narrative's interesting because in the end she says, you know what, mate? You were obsessed with the Doctor. You were ignoring me and you were making fun of me. The spell has been broken. Do I think this character would have reacted like this in reality? No. But there you go. I just think that's the age we live in now. She'd be going, yes, Lord Byron, yes, let's go upstairs quickly. I've been wanting this for such a long time. But not in the fantasy world we live in right now. But never mind. So I loved Fletcher's servant. It was such a... there was a lot of things in this episode. So I like the dancing. And I loved Lord Byron dancing with the Doctor. May I say you look amazing, or whatever, you look brilliant, or whatever he said later on. She goes, no, you may not. So he is definitely flirting with the Doctor. He wants some of that sonic screwdriver, examining him, if you like, if I put it that crude way. But it's never going to happen, mate. It wasn't going to happen when he was a man, and it's certainly not going to happen now the Doctor's a woman. So the changing house, I really liked this concept. That is classic horror movie, isn't it? They're trying to leave the rooms and they're changing. They're going around in circles. So basically, we find that this lone Cyberman is standing outside. And that's when this episode really turns. And it really gets interesting. And that's when the Doctor finally becomes, for millions of people around the world now, Jodie Whittaker would have become the Doctor last night because her speech, after she's triggered by what Ryan says, that's really the moment it all kicks off. So, we got all that. And, and I love Graham. Graham was looking for a loo all episode, and he never found one. And then Fletcher the servant kicks this kind of, I suppose it's a wee bowl or something. And Graham's thinking, well, I'm not doing it in there. So he's holding it in for the whole episode. But they did get to the TARDIS eventually. So basically, where's my other notes? So where are we? Where's the Siberian? Where's the Siberian notes I've got? Right, yes. So basically, one day Lord Byron's walking down the lake. He sees this silver stuff in the water, which is called Siberium. He holds it. It's like a ball. It goes inside him, and then he seems to have, I suppose, all the faults of the Cyberman, the possibilities of its past and its future. This is what the lone Cyberman has come to collect. So basically, the lone Cyberman gets into Lord Byron's estate, and he's looking for someone called the Guardian. Now, at first, the Doctor's thinking, maybe this is me, but it's not. It's Percy Shelley, right? And so he's been trying to hold him off, and by the power of the Siberium, he's been able to change the shape of the house and all of that and block him out. But in the end, he's too weak, and that's when you get that big moment when Ryan says, it's either him or millions of people. Again, Ryan is right, but he doesn't have the Doctor's mind or history or experience. The Doctor's right. If I allow this man to die, everything changes. He's too important. And definitely a fixed point in time as far as I'm concerned. So the Doctor's right. So Percy couldn't die. So the Doctor, she goes, I can't win. What do I do? And in the end, she saves Byron. Now, what's really, that's what's up, Byron. I'm talking about Percy Shelley. She saves Percy Shelley, right? Now, this is a curious moment, right? when she gets the Siberium out of Percy Shelley, right? It's a struggle to see who it's going to go into. Now, the Siberium gravitates towards the Doctor. Now, even she says, it seems to like me more. It's gravitated to me. But why? Why wouldn't the Siberium prefer to go inside the Cyberman rather than the Doctor? That's really curious. There's something we don't know about. There's something going on here. Answers are coming. I mean, even Mandip Gill says mysteries will be solved. But we know that Chris Chibnall has already said that whatever we answer, we're going to ask new questions. I doubt we'll see the Master in next week's episode. I think we'll definitely see the Master in the final episode 10, right? But I don't think we'll see him next week. And I'm still not convinced we won't see Captain Jack. So even though Chris Chibnall said, no, he's not back this year, maybe next year, blah, 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 we love him. I still think there's an opportunity here. And I think we've all absolutely loved some screen time between Captain Jack and this brand new 13th Doctor. So we can still hope for that. It probably won't happen, but I'm not convinced it won't happen. So in the end, the Doctor's got a choice. He's literally this Cyberman threatening to destroy the world if the Doctor doesn't give over the Siberium. So in the end, she has to make the choice. And there's another great moment in this episode, because this episode is full of great moments. And you know when Mary Shelley's stepsister is talking with Yaz about Lord Byron and how she feels about him, and she talks about her person, obviously the Doctor. So in her eyes, you can tell there's this hero worship going on. And what I like is when it's all hit the fans and she's given the Siberium to the Cyberman, you can see a look of maybe disgust. You know that moment when you hero worship someone and then you find out that maybe they're a bit of a cheat, they're a criminal, they're a murderer or something. And this is Yaz. The Doctor seems to have come down a peg or two in Yaz's eyes. That's a very interesting moment. Or was there another reason she was giving this look to the Doctor? Because we don't actually know if Yaz is actually being herself. So again, there's so many things going on there with Yaz. And as I say, I think she was dead from Spyfall, but we will find out. I also thought there was some great gags between Ryan, what's his name? That's it, Dr. Polidori. I loved Dr. Polidori. I loved his sleepwalking. But the moment when he offers Ryan out for a duel was absolutely hilarious. And I thought both actors played it so well. And I thought Max wrote it brilliantly. I'm really happy. This has got to be one of the best standalone episodes in the Chibnall era, or really all throughout, at least the revival. It was really, really good. I mean, can you call it a standalone? It is part of the art. But I still think it was a self-contained story with something that had consequences for the finale. So obviously it's not standalone. But for a lot of that episode, we didn't meet that Cyberman well into, I think, 25 minutes into the episode. And so, you know, I love the stuff. And I really liked, the companions were really spread out this week, and they all played their part with the historical figures. And I love the bit when the Doctor's talking about great stories being written, and they open the door and they're playing Blind Man's Buff or whatever and just being silly. Because I think Lord Byron's the older one, and I think the other lot are quite young as well. So they haven't totally matured yet. And I think these are great historical figures. I mean, we're talking about Mary Shelley, who created Frankenstein. And for Chris Chibnall to say to Max, I want you to write an episode about the woman who created Frankenstein, but we're going to do, in the middle of all this, we're going to put our very own Frankenstein in, the Cyberman. That's Doctor Who's version of Frankenstein, right? So I thought that was very clever from Chris Chibnall, and I thought Maxine Alderton did a really, really good job adapting that. And, you know, we know Chris Chibnall, he's always seems to have a kind of big credit in the writing every week. But if Chris Chibnall hasn't got a co-credit with the writer, that means he must really, really rate said writer. So Maxine Alderton, you must have something special about you, because Chris Chibnall didn't even need to help you write this episode. But not only that, I think that, look, obviously Chris was there. He said, listen, I want a Cyberman in this episode. I need it to connect. I need to bleed through to my finale. And I understand that. But the idea, everything she did, and the scripts, the dialogue, it was absolutely beautiful. I absolutely loved this episode. Have I missed anything out? Because I really don't want to. Normally, right? Normally, I like to just skip through the fine details of an episode and just talk about how I feel about it. But the psychic paper. I loved that bit. That was something else that was weird, wasn't it? Because they were just seeing blank paper. So why? Why couldn't they see through? Why weren't they falling for the Doctor's psychic paper? So that was really good as well. So, I think basically we've covered everything. But as I say, look, I'm just gonna say 10 out of 10 for this episode. It was amazing. It was really good. Look, this isn't the best Doctor Who episode. I don't think it's as good as the reveal of the Master in season 3 in that 3-part finale, because that's top draw, to be fair. But this, in terms of the Chibnall era, is high quality. This is premium Chris Chibnall era, and it's something we've been waiting for many weeks. I mean, after 2 episodes, we can evaluate season 12. We can evaluate season 12, but I do have this feeling, because I remember after season 11, even after the Dalek special episode on that New Year's Day, I just wasn't feeling very enthusiastic for the future of Doctor Who, and I was really disappointed. And I'd even stopped doing videos after that special was done, and there was no episodes to talk about. And normally I would have probably come back and talked about classics, my favourite Doctors, companions, but I was just so Doctor Who'd out. I was just drained of Doctor Who because it was just such a draining season. But now when I look at season 11, I kind of enjoy it a lot more, because I get that this was always supposed to be a slow burn. And I like slow burn stories. And now we've experienced a lot of season 12. I get season 11 now, and it works for me. So I do believe by the end of this season, I'm going to be thinking, wow, this is so much better. This is Doctor Who, and I'm really feeling this Doctor now, and I really am. And I think mostly this season, I'm starting to feel Jodie's version of the 13th Doctor so much more. I think there's times this season where she's gone backwards again, and I've been disappointed with the direction Chris Chibnall's gone with her, or the director, or the scriptwriter of that episode. But I think mostly Fugitive of the Judoon, both parts of Spyfall, she was really becoming this Doctor that we can look up to, that we can feel bad for, because all these revelations are really making her feel alone. And as I say, if you haven't seen this episode, go and watch her speech after Ryan says they should let Percy Shelley die. It was absolutely fantastic. I want to know what you think of this episode. Are you in love with it like I am? Are you falling in love with Max the writer and Emma the director? Do we want Maxine Alderton to write loads more Doctor Who? Of course we do. Maybe become showrunner, but no, we don't want to go down the Moffat route and be reactionary. We know where that got us. I want to see Maxine Alderton do more episodes. I want to see what she's made of in terms of Doctor Who. She certainly seems to understand the character, so I want to see her do a few episodes, but maybe a future showrunner, because if you feel Doctor Who in your blood, in your soul, in your heart, you've definitely got a chance of running this show, because so far 3 fanboys have run it. Why not have a fangirl if she is indeed a Doctor Who fan? But she's a very talented writer, and I was very, very impressed with what she did last week. So comment down below, let me know how you feel, and also I want to know, what are your theories for the 2-part finale? And most importantly, do you think that Yaz, Graham and Ryan are going to survive? I'm really conflicted now. And of course, the big moment at the end of the episode, the Doctor goes, I can take you home. They skip past that and say, oh no, we should just research Percy Shelley's numbers that he was writing down, right, when he was the Guardian. So it wasn't really covered. But this is an important moment, because the Doctor could easily just land in 2020 and say, right, get off, you're not coming with me. No human should be involved in a cyber war. End of. But Doctor, no, see ya. Is what Nine did to Rose in season 1 in in The Parting of the Ways, where he tricks her into going into the TARDIS. He tries it. David Tennant's Doctor tries it on Rose at the end of season 2, and she goes, "No, I'm not going." And in the end, they part. Just imagine if she actually went. But then if she went, they would have been parted anyway. So really, but this time the Doctor actually gives the companions a choice. Now that's very interesting to me, because if I was the Doctor and I had kind of a conscience, and the Doctor hasn't always had a big guilty conscience about, putting companions in harm's way. I just feel if I was the Doctor, I'd be going, "No, you're going. This is no place for you." But they are going, and I think there's only one eventuality for all three of these people. I think that Graham and Yaz will both die. I think Ryan will survive and decide to go back to 2020 and leave the Doctor. So I want to know what you think. I love this episode. I can't wait for the last 2 episodes in season 12. Should be watching episode 9 Wednesday or Thursday, and I'll give you my feedback. Obviously, I won't be able to spoil the episode, but I'm really excited. This season has got my Doctor Who juices pumping and flowing again, and that can only be a good thing. I'll be back tomorrow with even more Doctor Who content. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I certainly did. See you again soon.